it is that time. As we promised you, we got distinguished guests in the building. Two of them. I don't know if we call them the army of two, Kobe and Shaq, Batman and Robin. But we will find out a bit shortly. But first and foremost, Ben, before we speak to the main man, I've got a brother here. I do know him. We're from the same stomping yard. He's from the United States of Newlands East. He's fast with the hands. He was a boxer. He dabbled a bit in MMA. Successful businessman as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Winston Innes. Come on. Good to have you with us in the studio. How you doing, my man?
How's it, Gregory? How you doing, brother?
I'm well, bro. It's good to see you now. Before we speak to Zane, I just got 2 or 3 questions for you quickly before we go into it, man. So obviously we grew up in Newlands East together, and you grew up in a God-fearing home, and we're not been to church, bro.
No, I grew up in the church, Chief. I go to church every opportunity I get. I don't go as much as I should.
You don't go as much as you should.
You know, we all need God more than we think. You know? But I go to church.
Bro. Yeah, no, we need a tithe, bro. So I needed to come and visit my church, bro. I'm Pastor Frank
Man
Lucas.
said we need the tithe.
Yeah, I'm Pastor Frank Lucas, bro. I collect 20%, bro, not 10, 20%. Yeah, man. And shout out, man. You know, I was speaking to your cousin this week, man. And shout out to your mother, Auntie Pat. Your mother, she puts on many oaks, many guys. She put on Peter, Jerry in Secunda, Successful. And I just wanted to ask you, like, where did that come from?
Honestly, I don't know where that came from, but one thing I do know is whenever I wanted to meet someone new, I just went home. You got home from school, and there was someone new almost every week. So she really did. You know, my father used to say when he gets to the gate, "Who's there?" That's how quick the turnaround was. But it gave you a wealth of experience. It gave you a whole plethora of issues that you had to navigate.
Right.
Different personalities, different brothers. So I feel like she also put me on by virtue or by extension of her good deeds. You know. So it's blessings from her as well.
Wow, that's great, man. That's great, man. So, hey, man, you know they say obviously success is relative, but coming from the East, you have experienced great success. In fact, I was speaking to Gans and he's like, hey, I toured or when I was new house, and when you have a TV that goes into the kitchen table and it's not on the displayed on the wall, I'm like, no, Winston made it. So I got a question with regards to that. Has success changed you?
I don't think success changes you. I think change is a constant journey, right? I like to refer to changes by way of acronym that says constantly having a new growth experience.
Wow.
Right? So the only constant people say is change.
Wow.
And that is so true because I always say to people, the biggest diss someone can ever give you is say you haven't changed a bit.
Wow.
Because I remember that, and I see you now, and you've changed. You've grown in leaps and bounds. If you were the same guy, it's like something wrong, arrested development. And I always use the analogy that says, if you see a 2-year-old kid, it's the cutest experience because the kid's just figured out how to walk, figured out how to speak. So you know, there's that joy that comes from a 2-year-old, even when they battle to string sentences together. Right. But I put it to you, if that child is the same at 6, you start to think there's something wrong. You get me? Because the child has to go through the phases of life, right? So likewise, an adult, a human being, must go through the phases of life. If you get stuck at any one of the phases that you pass, and someone comes to you and says, but you haven't changed a bit, I think you need to do an introspection, because we need to change. We need to grow. We need to be molded by our experiences. We need to be shaped by our challenges. So we constantly having a new growth experience.
That is dope, man. We're gonna come back to Winston. And you know, this week when the interview was confirmed, I phoned a friend in Newlands and I said, hey, you've been doing some work with these guys, with our guest that we're gonna be speaking to now specifically. And I'm like, he's been with you guys in the streets. He's been doing projects, getting involved with youth, getting involved, just doing great things, especially in my community. And I asked him the question, I said, is this guy legit? Or is he just trying to score political points? And his response to me was, no, he's 100% legit. This is not an act, this is who he is. So ladies and gentlemen, we have the leader of the AGC in the building. He's a down-to-earth guy. He loves to have fun, he's ambitious. And I'm talking about no other than the man himself, Duduzane Zuma. Welcome. Good to have you with us in studio, my friend.
Gregory, thank you very much for having us, and to your listeners. I just must put a disclaimer out. My answers will be as close to yebo or these analogies and developments and acronyms. Hey, man.
Sure. Yeah, man. So it's so good to have you with us, man.
Thank you very much.
Before we go into the AGC manifesto, I had some time to go through it. Thank you so much for sending that to me. Just some quick questions, just to get to know you a little bit. Some fun questions. Anthony Joshua or Francis Ngannou?
Look, I'm a big fan of Anthony Joshua, but I like being realistic. As much as he's talented and he's an experienced boxer, I think Francis Ngannou is just an anomaly. He's a beast. So I do believe that Francis, judging us on his previous performance when he fought the
Tyson.
champion, I think he's gonna win the.
You think he's gonna do it?
Yeah, I do believe so.
Greatest rapper of all time.
Ooh. Nah, that I didn't say something.
Jay-Z?
Jay-Z,
Okay.
Jigga, no doubt.
Okay.
To me, at least, yeah.
Dead or alive, somebody that you would have loved to just sit down and have a chat with?
I always have. I've met two of the people that I'd always wanted to meet. The one I didn't have a chance. His name is Muammar Gaddafi. Yeah, I'd have loved to have a conversation with him.
Sure.
The former leader of Libya.
Wow. Interesting. Are you a morning guy or evening guy?
Morning, definitely.
Morning guy.
Yeah.
Tea or coffee?
Right now it's coffee. I've taken quite a keen interest in coffee. Yeah, just the story of coffee, the history of coffee,
Right.
And just understanding the science, which is a very simple science, but the science behind coffee.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
MMA or boxing?
The sweet science. Boxing, yeah.
Boxing, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. And then just two more, Joburg or Cape Town, and why?
Johannesburg.
Johannesburg.
Johannesburg, and why would be it's a more realistic place. You
More
know,
realistic
More
place.
realistic. There's more of a reality that is relevant to all of us. You know, as great as Cape Town is and as popular as it is as a global destination, I think it's still very segmented, and I think that's what takes it, in my mind, takes it backwards. There's a lot of division out there when you look at the way the communities are stacked up, the way they're built around what the success of Cape Town is.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'd say Johannesburg. I think it's definitely more integrated as a society.
Sure, interesting, man. Favorite movie of all time?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of good ones.
Uh-huh.
It's a tough question.
Maybe give me a top three.
Top
Because
three.
Sometimes it's like, can't choose one, yeah?
Let me try and just break it down into different genres.
Right, got you.
I'd say Back to the Future. As
Oh.
as a what would you call it? Sequels.
Right.
Four or five Back to the Futures.
Yeah.
That's the era I grew up in. I'm
Mhm.
a child of the 80s. And those concepts that were introduced then and how a majority of them have come to reality. I mean, we've been able to grow up around what those ideas were in
Yeah.
the 80s. The character, the technology, the way of life. I think it speaks quite deeply to me because I'm a tech head, so
Sure.
I appreciate that. If I'd say I'd have to break it down to action. Oof. Training Day would have to be up there. Training Day will have to be up there. It's a very simple concept, but it speaks volumes of our society.
Right.
And right now, if you look at what's happening in most places in the world, that movie tells major story.
Sure.
And then the final one would be, let's say, comedy.
Comedy, okay.
You know, we need to have a good laugh from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to America, one.
Coming to America first, classic.
The second one, I only managed 10 minutes. I couldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one was
Nah.
it weren't good at all.
Nah, they overdid it. They overdid it.
Sure, man. Interesting, man. Yeah. So today we want to talk all things AGC. First and foremost, congratulations
Thank you very
on
much,
forming
Chris.
this new party. All game changers. And I had an opportunity, as I said, to go through you guys' manifesto. So today, man, we just want to dig deep, just go into the manifesto, just understand, get a better understanding in terms of what you guys are trying to achieve. Let's look at your policies, let's look at your strategies with regards to the AGC,
Yes,
and the challenges that we are facing in the country, man. So before we go into it, when you look at our landscape as South Africa, what are your views? So obviously you start with this political country, man. What is the state of our country?
The state of our country, I'll boil it down to the look and feel. You know, because we can all get drowned in the stats. You know, the statistics about everything that's obvious to all of us.
Yeah.
But I always say, take a look around. You know, if we jump into our modes of transportation, whatever that is, and in any city, any major city you live in, whether it's Pretoria, Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, Bloemfontein, if you drive less than 15-20 minutes out of the city center, you will see shock and horror. You'll see dilapidated city centers or central business districts. There was a stat that the premier of KZN put out. She spoke about it late last year, October, November.
Yeah.
That there's 600 informal settlements just within their Tigwini municipality. And you know, we've driven past a few of them. I mean, I can only mention from what I've seen. Unfortunately, maybe 10 or 15 of them. 600 is a crazy number.
Sure.
So I always boil it down to the last new city that was built in this country would have been in the late 70s, early 80s. We're in 2024.
Sure.
There are whole countries that have come up in the world. So I think that's the state of our landscape. And that speaks to the desperate need for change, the desperate need for development and everything else that comes with it.
Sure. What is the vision of the agency?
Vision of the AGC is to turn everything around. The way we look at not just politics, but our economy, our social ills, getting everyone on board, immaterial of your background. Wherever it is that you're from, we have one country to build. If you look at how politics has been segmented, how it's been based on certain criteria, whether it be race, whether it be class, I think that does us a huge disservice because it keeps us separated. What we're saying is we believe we can do it. We believe we can do it as one grouping, as opposed to different parties having different ideologies, which is cool. We all have different thoughts and different thought processes. There's one goal.
Right.
There's only one way to achieve it, and that's by working together. Everyone's got different routes or avenues to success of Project South Africa, but it's too many routes. We need to agree on one.
Sure.
If you look at the most successful countries, it's one vision, society that rallies behind that vision, and that vision being led by a leader or a group of leaders. And that's what we lack in this country.
Sure.
So we're switching that up, and we're saying to everybody, the way things have worked, let's deconstruct it.
Sure.
South Africa is only going to work if we stand up. We cannot wait for a superhero to arrive. We have to be our own heroes in this case. So that's basically taking the challenges head on and putting our shoulders to the wheel. Everyone needs to play a role. That's basically it.
So good, man. Snap?
Yeah, sorry guys. So I just have a question, I think, which a lot of young people really want to hear. So I know that as part of your vision and strategy, the agency emphasizes a lot of solution-focused approach through the collaboration with your various sectors.
Yes.
So can you elaborate on the specific strategies rather that your party has, or rather plans that they have to implement and address the themes that you've outlined in your manifesto, which include your education, unemployment, infrastructure, crime, and healthcare? And I think also when you were on, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was an interview I'm not going to mention, the other media, that you did about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago.
Highway radio, that's what matters right now.
Yeah, 100%. But you mentioned some very key areas in terms of, or rather key industries rather where you feel like that's where we need to focus on more? Like you've got places like your mining and your agriculture and so forth, which a lot of people want to get into, but they're not necessarily sure, what do I even study? Once I've studied, how do I actually get into that aspect, into that space? So if you can just please just brief us a little bit on that.
I'll do that, Sneh. So the main failing point, I think, of what the South African government is right now, and you know, we don't like pointing fingers because it's the easiest thing to do, the blame game, but the turnaround time is what's letting us down.
Sure.
The time from whatever decisions or strategies that are agreed upon to implementation. You look at anything from the water issues that we've had, we've spoken about that extensively in the past, the electricity issues we have. You know, there's a lot of politicking around it, there's a lot of jockeying in position, but no solutions. And I mean, it's a very, very simple thing. You have South Africa that exists, and I just want to take the snapshot so people understand. South Africa exists as a country that's at the southern tip of Africa. It's a leader in Africa, and as being a leader in Africa, by virtue of that, it's a global leader, because a lot of the world looks to South Africa for guidance, for advice, because of the successes that we've had, the leadership role that we've played in negotiating certain things politically and economically on the continent. We form part of the United Nations, we form part of the G20. At some point, until we got kicked out last year because Japan said, "Hold on, fellas, you guys want to run around and tell everyone what to do, but you don't have your house in order." So we used to be a special invitee on the G7 grouping of countries, which we no longer are. And then we form part of BRICS, so we have the best of all worlds: East, West, African Union. I mean, we've chaired it, I think, twice now. So we have everything going for us. You know, we are a developing state, but we have first world or developed traits. If you look at some of our developments when it comes to infrastructure, our judiciary, so you know, recourse if you're business people in this country from outside and internally as well. So if you look at South Africa and in that position, how is it that we have fallen to, what is it, number 2 now, if not number 3, after what would be Egypt and Nigeria? You know, as the leading economies in Africa. You know, it's just happened over a period of the last 3-4 years, and we're not looking like we're going to get our place back, which is unfortunate. And that speaks to how we've structured everything in this country, starting from the education system, leading up to the jobs market, because you cannot have the unemployment issue being dealt with without opportunities. And those opportunities come with investments. On one hand, you're saying, hey, we want jobs for the unemployed, majority of youths, but then we're giving people that come and invest a hard time. You know, they're being shaken down by business forums, they're being shaken down by unions, and workers' rights need to be protected. People need opportunities, but at the end of the day, if it's done in the manner that it's being done, people will fold up and pack up and leave, and that's exactly what's happened. So we have to introspect and say, guys, this is where we're at. How do we make it as government, you know, make it a playing field for everyone to get involved, whether you're a local business person, whether you're a foreign business person, and how do we get to a point where those people flourish? Look after them, protect them as businesses. If it means cutting down on certain taxes and tariffs to get the economy going, get us to a much higher growth trajectory, then let that be so. Once we get to that point, then we can start dealing with certain issues. You know, we're more focused, as an example, on renaming streets and fighting about the names of streets instead of building new cities and naming them whatever the hell we want. You know. So those are the sort of dynamics that we need to put into play. How do we change that mindset? So the opportunities for our youths will be created within the schooling system. And I feel like we're leaving those areas of education too late. So you have kids that will be in late high school, entering the tertiary level, and have no idea what to do. You know, South Africa, the GDP of South Africa is built on the back of mining, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and then everything else that comes, technology, and we need to focus on that. So if we are curating what the youths are today, we need to push them in that direction deliberately, because the opportunities will only come in those spaces, and as an example for now, until we mature. And why I'm saying that is, if you look at a lot of countries, once again, in Europe, if you look at the US itself, a lot of Asian countries, they don't have much going for them. meaning natural resources, raw materials. Everything they're getting from is still from Africa.
Yeah.
You know, how do they get it right? How do they not mine a single a mineral and still be in the top 10 producers in the world, the top 10 economies in the world? Why can't we get that done right? You know, and that's the case of South Africa and Africa, the resource curse, where you have natural resources underground. That wealth translates to the biggest wealth in the world, but then what is above ground, the development does not equate what is underground. You know, so that's what we need to look at. So the education system, restructuring that, making it more fit for purpose for the young person coming up. So, as an example, you have, let's speak about the mining industry. You know, major growth opportunities, major employment opportunities, because you're starting off at worker level, and we've seen the migration of labor from different parts of the country and different parts of Africa, people coming into different cities and working. That tied in with, if you look at our attitudes as people today, people are not as willing to work as they used to be. You know, people are above certain menial jobs. You know, it's just beneath me. I won't do this. I won't. You know, I won't be a laborer and that sort of thing. We focus on what's happening on the gram, and we need to switch that attitude, because South Africa, the only way we're going to grow is if we work, which speaks to people talking about. So I'm just looping, I'm just putting it together. People speaking about social grants as an example. One of the issues we have with people getting a bit lax, getting a bit lazy, is because you have a social grant scheme that is benefiting people who are able-bodied, that should be out there working. Once again, yes, we cannot blame them because of lack of opportunities, but at the same time, we cannot create a welfare state where people just want to sit and wait for handouts. So there are underprivileged people, there are people with disabilities who are able to get employment, and they are the vulnerable elderly. Of course, they should be liable to get that protection from government. But everyone else that is getting that 350, that is doing it as a means to an end, that needs to stop. The country's not going to grow on that basis. So you have the education system, the mining space. You get a mining town, and we've seen mining towns growing. The mining space will speak about laborers on the ground digging. It'll speak about truck drivers driving the raw material up and down. It'll speak about yellow equipment operators, excavators, and everything else that comes in that space, the bulldozers. Then it speaks about people that will be in the geological space. So you go and study geology. That is to deal with your sediment and your mine planning and everything. Understanding the minerals, how to beneficiate it, the value of those minerals. Then it's a legal aspect of it. Lawyers that will draw up those documents to protect the companies, the workers, the investors, whatever how that all will shape up. Then you've got the auditors. You know, you'll need accountants to balance the books. So as you go on, it's a ripple-on effect of opportunities, and we need to look at those opportunities. Same in the agricultural space, because it's not only about the mineral, it's about the logistics around it, it's about the avenues of trade, export, and that sort of thing. So when we speak about practical things, we're speaking about changing the mindset, and that's what we always speak about. Let's look at these solutions that haven't worked, or that worked to a certain point, and agree that we're at a point where it's not working. Let's try something new. And that's all we're saying. That's why we're saying we're placing ourselves on the table. Where, given the chance, which we will be, we'll change the education system. We'll introduce certain a certain type of curriculum to the high school and even primary school level. If you look at agriculture, you wonder why you've got farmers that are successful in the deep rural areas, and when you get there, it's normally white Afrikaans farmers. They taught early, hands-on, waking up, plowing, that sort of thing. By the time we get to learning about the agricultural space, it's way down the line. Unless you decide to wake up one day, okay, this is what I want to study, but you've lost the practicality of learning it. So you'll have someone that's known about growing crops from 7 years old. By the time he's 17, he can go anywhere in the world and make a success of himself, because he's got the practical skills. So that's the sort of thing that we're speaking about. Technology, fourth industrial revolution, that's all good. We'll get there, but I feel like we're still in the transition in South Africa from the second to third industrial revolution, and we need to be honest about that.
So I think what I like about with how you answer that is that a lot of leaders in political parties, they come in and they give us their visions, they give us the strategy, but don't tell us the practicalities of it. And like you saying, you'll find like an Afrikaans farmer who has been taught from the age of 7, but you'll also find that even us as black farmers, because who's working those lands? But I think where where there's a gap or where there's a break is when we don't get taught on how to change that physical and practical experience that we know of growing crops. How do we now turn that into something that's going to be economically advantageous for us? How do I make it into a business? How do I make it so that we employ others? How do we get ourselves out of the mentality of the worker mentality and rather learning how to take those skills that we've learned and making that into something that's going to benefit everybody else?
Mostly, because if you look at it, sorry to interrupt you if I did. If you look at it, if you go to the same geographical radius, you will have communal land or land that's run by chiefs or ndunas, and then you have a farm owned by a farmer. So let's say it's Nduna Mukwena, wherever in the country may be. Then a neighboring farm will be Mr. Fanika, and you see a vast difference. Same topography, same logistical scenarios where they'd be good or bad, but you find Mr. Fanika is flourishing and Mr. Mukwena's communal land is not flourishing. You ask yourself, how is this possible when it's right next to each other? And it speaks to the go-getting nature. It speaks to skills transfer. Let's not be shy. If we need to knock on people's doors to say, teach us how do we get this done, let's do it. Which speaks further to the land issue. Because now if you start speaking about land, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun, how we deal with the land issue is very critical, because the land is the land issue is something that's either going to make or break us, and that's where we're at this point where you can't just speak about the land issue trying to attract people as a popular mass for voting. We need to be realistic and honest with the situation. If anyone offered us land in this room, I'll speak for myself, the most I'll probably do with it is build a home or a lodge. I won't even think about farming. I'm not interested in farming. It's not what I do. I appreciate it, I respect it, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the production, it's not what I do. I'm a city slicker, I love the concrete jungle. That's sort of the way I've grown up. No disrespect to people out there. So we need to be open and honest on what it is that we can do and what it is that we can't do.
So you've taken a different stance where you're saying we have to compensate. I think I would be very curious in terms of where does the compensation come from? If I'm not a person who's grown up in money, I don't necessarily have money to be able to pay Fantondo or whatever for whatever portion it's giving me. How realistic is it that you guys are saying that you want to get the land back, but you want to be able to give them some kind of compensation? Where does that come from?
Right, so I think more than taking a different approach, we've taken the only realistic approach. Because the way the land debate is not unique to South Africa. It's a global talking point. And the first thing I'll say is, let's learn from the rest of the world. We've seen people trying to do what is being proposed, and it's failed dismally. There's not one country in the world that's had a land grab style approach to this conversation, where you take from people and you hand to other people, where the economies and countries haven't collapsed. You take a look from, I've got homies of mine that are living in Moldova, for example. They tried that, it was done beautifully on paper, but the same thing that has happened there is happening in Zimbabwe. The very same people who have that land are going back and trying to get assistance from the people that it was taken from. So what guides our viewpoint on this is what an economy is. Economies of scale, supply and demand, the economics, and if you boil everything that we do, including us being in the studio right now, boils down to land. This studio, amazing studio by the way, the vibes, when I walked in, I could hear it from the entrance. I was like, okay, this is dope. The studio that exists fits into this building, which speaks about the owner of the building. It speaks to the people that developed this building. It speaks to who owns the extent of land which this building was built on. And that goes for everything from the oyster box to Gateway shopping center. So the land issue is something that is completely detrimental to our cause if we deal with it in the way that people are proposing. Because what happens is, land is value. everything that we speak about boils down to land. It's collateral. Land, you can work it, you can develop it, you can sell it, you can lease it, you can mine it, you can grow on it, agriculturally speaking. So when you look at how everything coalesces into what is called banking capital, which is the financial services space, everything is land-based. You look at developers of land, your big companies that develop, I don't know who it is right now that's still in the system, but your example, your WPHOs and Grinnekers and all these guys, formerly old Group 5, I don't know who's in the system now, time has moved so much. You look at the big farming companies, the guys that farm the tomatoes in Limpopo, you look at the guys that grow lettuce and potatoes, land. You look at the big legal firms. Their firms exist in offices that are built in office parks or buildings. They're based on structures that are land, whether they own the land, whether they've leased it, whether they're renting, whatever it is, whether it's a hand-me-down. So all these different economies will always land up at the banking space, but it's all based on land value.
Sure.
So now if I come and I take land from you, whatever the reason is, look, we're government guys, you have to give us the land back, and then we're going to give it away. You're already starting to mess with the metrics of land value, locally and internationally. Because people are watching and saying, okay, these guys are doing this, how is this going to end up? Because now, once you start doing that, you're watering down the value of land. So by the time I take it from Greg and I'm handing it to Winston, the world is saying, the economic system is saying, not right, we don't see this, we don't appreciate it, we're going to water it down to zero. Okay, now that you're sitting with that land, what do you do with it? And then that speaks further. Okay, Winston, fine, he's a farmer, he's farming and he's getting it right. He's got tomatoes, potatoes, whatever it is. There's avenues of export. No one is going to buy his products. Why? They'll say, okay, we don't like the way things were done. You've upset the apple cart. We've been dealing with a certain system that's existed, that is structured. Now you coming and you're trying to upset, not going to happen. So he's going to produce all these wonderful farming goodies, and he's going to be stuck with it on his farm. He'll have to start giving it away at some point. So the land issue, and why we speak about the land issue, and our standpoint is land redistribution with compensation. And the question that you asked is, practically how does that work, is government, which is the ultimate custodian, taxman and the regulator, will buy the land from a willing seller. Once you have that, there are people that will be interested, yourself, Snare, myself, Duduzane, will say, look, this is us, this is what we do. I could be, let's say I'm the chance taker, I just want a piece of land because, that's it, I just want to own a piece of land. And you are someone that's producing. We'll have to do those checks and balances. Okay, she's able, she's experienced, she's worked a farm, she's owned a farm, she's part of a historic farming, and maybe it's been smaller than the bigger guys that exist, but she knows what she's doing, and that land will be given to you because you're able and you're able to farm it. On my side, we'll check now, they'll see this guy now. This guy's always just moving around, he's in the clubs, he's busy, clearly he's not up to the task, and you won't get the land. So it's survival of the fittest. We want people that are willing and able to use the land. If you're not going to get it. It's not a free for all. So it's not just going to be give and just take and then just distribute. Willing buyer, willing seller, the willing buyer will be government, and then the people that will benefit from it will get it. And if they don't come up with the goods, that land will be given back. Use it or lose it. Just like it should be with the mining rights. A lot of people, there's a use it or lose it clause that is not being upheld. That's exactly what we'll do. And if you look at it, I saw a report, I forget the name of this, all these different groupings, that over the past, I think it's 10 or 15 years, there have been projects of that nature where land has been taken from private entities and given to black farmers. And 90% of those projects have not succeeded.
Wow.
Right. It's
That's
there.
crazy.
So it's one of those things where, as much as we're saying this, we need to look at like I said, the practicalities. Something clearly isn't working. So let's start off on the right footing.
I think I like how I think a lot of young people, they expect it when there's a young person who's starting a political party, they think, this guy, when I start making money. But I think some of the things that you are saying, the changes that need to happen, there is going to be quite a bit of resistance that you're going to get from young. Like for example, you're talking about taking away social grants to able-bodied people and whatnot.
ma'am.
Not everybody's going to be happy about that. I have a lot of people that are already driving around La Lucia and saying, that one is mine, you know? So, but I think I like the fact that you are giving practical solutions and you're explaining so that people understand what actions that actually need to be taken that are not going to be to our detriment, but rather that are going to move us forward.
Snare, we have to be realistic, because if we don't, we're going down the drain. Because if you look at what we're speaking about, this is for the next 50 to 100 years. We're not doing this for the next election cycle.
Yeah.
Because that's our problem as people that are in the we've seen in the political space, and you know, as let me not say black people, but as non-white people, we have a very terrible attitude when it comes to what success should be. We are looking at instant gratification. We don't look at the long term.
Sure.
We're saying to people, there's people that say, these guys are talking absolute mumbo jumbo. That's fine. But we're carrying on with this, and when you catch up is when you'll catch up.
Sure.
But there is no other way that it will work. I can guarantee you. You know, I always we'll grow up together in 10, 15 years time, whether it's in a TV studio, radio studio, or whether we're sitting at a shisanyama, we'll have this conversation. Great.
Yeah.
And I can tell you there'll be no land that's been taken from anyone.
Sure.
And if they do, we'll be having that conversation from a shisanyama somewhere in Canada.
Sure. Interesting stuff, man. I just want to come to you, Winston, man. What made you believe and stand behind this man? Because, you know, I've heard you say stuff like, we've come to an understanding that we need to be on the same page, even if we're wrong. What caused you to say, I'm standing behind this guy no matter what? What did you see in him?
I'm jumping in. This is my I have to apologize. This question is directed to him. But many people get it twisted.
Right.
They see this man and they form whatever views, and I'm glad that you've known him for a very long time.
Right.
You've grown up with him, so you understand him.
Right.
This is a proper OG.
Come on.
More than someone that's initialized the vision and supported the vision. He is a big brother of mine.
Come on.
You know, he's not that much older than me, but what he does, what he stands for, and he's always 10 toes down. You know.
Come on.
And he's someone that's unwavering. He's practical. He's principled. And he pushes me to become a better person. And this is the sort of homie that I've missed in my life. You know, we've all had friends, but this is someone that will give you the harsh truths. You know, so much so that at some point you'll be like, okay, yo, I heard you, man, calm down. You know, so I just wanted to jump in because a lot of times he's asked this question, and then I sit here and I get a bit shy about it because I also need to say my piece. You know, this dude is a stand-up guy. You know, with or without this journey, I appreciate that I've come across a Winston in my life, because everyone needs a Winston in their lives. So from my side, I've got to give him his flowers. I've got to salute him. I do on a regular basis, not as regular as I should. But no, he's man, he's a solid dude. All around.
Awesome.
Stand-up guy.
Awesome.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good. That's good, bro.
No, thanks for that, Zani. Greg, I think society, we suffer from cognitive dissonance.
You see now.
Philosophy.
We measure others on what they do. We measure ourselves on our thoughts, like, oh, my heart's in the right place. You get me? So, I'll give you an example. Gregory didn't come past my house to empathize with me when so-and-so passed away. Gregory's a bad guy. That, I helped him, I've tithed in his church. Remember the time he needed to fix his car? Gregory's a bad guy because he didn't come. Winston, why didn't you go see Gregory's mom passed away? But Gregory knows my heart's in the right place. I was busy with something, time, work, but Gregory knows me. See the double standard? So we measure others on what they do or don't do.
Sure.
We measure ourselves on our intention.
Wow, that's great, man.
That's a double standard.
Shit.
Now, why I say this, it rolls into everything about us. South Africans now, we all know that we perhaps heading off a cliff
Yep.
if this continues, right?
Mm.
We all know we have a role to play in this country, right? But how many of us are willing to get involved? No, man. You know, these guys are like this and those guys are like that. And I don't like getting involved. It's a dirty game. My brother, you have a responsibility to get involved.
Sure.
To what extent? Everyone gets in where they fit in. If you going to get in at the extent that says, you know what, I'm going to motivate youngsters to stay away from drugs, that's your role. At least you're involved. If you getting in at the level that says, I'm going to get in at the church because, you know, the church unit, the family unit is dissipating, that's my role. Get in where you fit in. The problem with us is, it's always someone else who's going to do it. It's always someone else who's going to. And then we measure that someone else on what they did or didn't do. Duduzane, state capture, that guy, the Guptas, the this. Hey, but Kriki, don't you think it's good that he's getting involved? You have to get involved now. I could have done it. Kriki, why don't you get involved? Bro, I don't know. Bro, you know, I'm a good person. I can't be in that muck. You see the double standard? You see the double standard? You have to take the responsibility, good and bad. We all in this problem together. That's why you don't hear us speak much about the other parties, the other people, because the truth is we appreciate them for getting us here. They put their hand up at a time when no one was putting their hand up, and they've got us here, right? Now we're here. We need to speak to the voters, we need to speak to society, we need to speak to the constituency, and we're in an interview, right? So in an interview, you can't talk about the other guy who also wants the job. You know what I mean? You come into the interview, you say, hey, Winston, so how will you impact the company? Before we start, I heard Gregory also wants this job. He's a bad guy. I'm wasting time. You know what I mean? Now the interviewer starts looking and thinking, let me look up this Gregory. I didn't know there was a Gregory. You understand? Now the interviewer checks Gregory's videos on YouTube. Now Gregory's in the running. When I could have just come and speak about the value I add. And also, just to touch on the land issue, we're not watering down what's happened. We're not watering down that people were dispossessed of land. Right? But there's two analogies that one needs to use as a reference. One, in a car, your windscreen's this big, your rearview mirror is this big. Because it's important to reflect on where you come from. But what's more important is where you're going.
Sure.
Currently, our leaders have a rearview mirror that's this big, and a windscreen that's this big. So when you ask why we're here, they'll say 1912. Right. Okay, you say, you're right. I'm even feeling upset. That happened to us. Okay, where do we go from here? We haven't quite figured it out. You see? You see? Because you get held hostage by your past.
Sure.
Be careful you don't become that you did what you detest.
Sure.
So we're not watering down what's happened with the land, but it didn't only happen here. New Zealand, the Maoris are out of land. Australia, the Aborigines are out of land.
Come on.
America, the Red Indians are out, and we can go on and on and on. I'm looking at the equipment in this studio, right? It was bought with a pretty penny, right? If I now take it away from you for nothing, steal it in effect, or take it, but I don't pay you, and you put the word out that if you see Winston, he has this equipment that he's taken from me for nothing. How will I be able to create value? Because as soon as that person says, hey, but this is Gregory's equipment, I can't buy it from you. So I'm saying, take it for nothing, give it to the next person for nothing. How does it then become worth something? That's what we're not explaining. Nothing plus nothing can't equal. Naught plus naught is never. You understand what I'm saying? So we're speaking about how we feel.
Yeah.
You understand? Because understand, fair and practical aren't always the same thing. Right? Give you another example. Because I like examples that speak. I like examples that speak to our everyday lives. Fair and practical aren't the same thing. Our kids are fighting. We get to a fight. Kids are fighting. We stop.
Right.
Your son says, hey, Dad, Uncle Winston's son hit me first. I say, hey, Craig, let's stop the lights from fighting. You say, no, Winston. Your son hit my son first. Let my son hit him back and we'll stop it. I'm like, it's not the best way to handle it, but okay, fair.
Right.
Your son hits my son. His eye comes out.
Yeah.
I say, oh, no, we can't stop, yeah? My son got one eye, your son got two. And my son hits him back. When they both one eye out, we stop. My son hits your son back, your son dies.
Sure.
You're like, oh, no, we can't stop here now. You still got you. Can you see?
Right.
It's a race to the bottom because we're chasing what's fair. It's impractical, my brother.
Wow.
We have to look at out of the box solutions.
Sure.
Remember, when we were talking about the land issue, we were talking about it as a way of a transferal of wealth, as a way of getting people who are marginalized back into the economy. So let's look at things that do that.
Wow.
Because naught plus naught is still naught. So you haven't done it. Because the person's going to say, I got the land now, but I went to the bank to take a loan to start because I need equipment. The bank won't give me a loan. The bank's saying, how? Why must I give you a loan? It's not worth anything. Now you're looking and you're saying, no, let's take over the banks now because these banks are not playing ball. Can you see? It's a race to the bottom. Now we're at the eye and then we're going. So these are the things that we need to truly introspect. And we need to be like medicine. Tastes bad, but we're good for each other.
Come
you know
on.
what I mean? Sometimes the truth. Tastes bad.
Not good, yeah.
And it's good
for you.
You understand? So
Sure.
these are the things. And we all need to get involved. So that is why the significance of the name All Game Changers.
Yes.
Because the truth is, we really need to change the game.
Right.
And who needs to change the game? All of us.
Sure.
Right? We need the best players. We don't need the best black players.
Right.
We don't need the best colored players. We don't need the best Indian. We need the best players.
Come on.
You see? So all game changes, even the philosophy around how to elect ministers. When we come into power, we will put out ads looking for Minister of Finance, and South Africa as a community
Right.
will apply, will send their best
With the guys with qualifications.
and they will be measured on output. You know what I mean? Not on how well they sing, not on how well they can rile up a crowd,
Right.
not on how loved they are, purely on his key performance indicators.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's where we're going.
Sure.
You in charge of roads?
Sure.
Do we have potholes? Don't we have potholes?
Sure.
Yeah, we do have potholes, but you must no. Your job is potholes. So we need to bring back accountability. Bring it back. Borders, whether we like it or not, we need to beef up our borders.
Sure.
It's not about being xenophobic. It's about you have to control the accident. It's like we grew up, right? On weekends, you clean the house, right? You took over, I'm cleaning the kitchen. But when you were wiping the floor in the kitchen, no one could walk in and out.
That's true.
Why? Because you were sorting out this section, right? From there, you're going to go now and sort out the lounge. But when you're sorting it out, you manage who can come in. You even leave a small section where it's not clean in case it's an emergency. Someone needs to go to the bathroom. You can tiptoe there. Yeah, right? So you manage it.
Gotcha.
We can't just leave things willy-nilly.
Right.
Everything needs to be managed. We have an army. Our army can patrol the borders, right? Our police force need to work in conjunction with the rest of the departments, right? Why can't tourism incentivize police? Hey, listen, crime's going down, tourism's going up, we're making more money. So because we're making more money, police, here's more. Now the motivation is, listen, crime's going down, tourism's going up. So our increases are getting better when crime goes down. Today you go in a police station, you can see there's no real motivation in sorting out, getting your statement. You one of many. If it gets solved, you understand? Now people get creative about incentivizing. Bro, please sort this thing out for me. Now you see, you now take. Why aren't we thinking? And we feel that government just needs a fresh look, a fresh feel. The energy level needs to be up, you know, and accountability is the overarching, you know, sort of yardstick. Because anything you measure improves just by virtue of the fact that you've measured it. If I measured how long if I told you go downstairs and come back up, you take a certain amount of time. And then I say, okay, now go down and come up, but I'm timing you. And if you beat the time you went down initially in, this is what you get. Guaranteed you'll beat it, because you know I'm being measured now. You know, so everything cascades down. But I think we can go on and go on, but everything we do and speak about must be practical. And leadership is an action. And what drew me to Duduzane is he's really is a man of few words. His actions speak for him. You know, Duduzane set on a cleaning campaign. Great. You know, it's easy to say, he's cleaning. No. But let's put things in context. Duduzane doesn't have to clean nobody's backyard. Let's just be honest.
Sorry, I just want to interject there. I was one of those guys. When you first started cleaning the community I came from, skepticism on a high level. What is going on there? Is this person trying to score points? What's going on? But my subconscious said, hey, but that guy's cleaning, irrespective of what reason he's cleaning for. He's cleaning.
It's happening.
The water is flowing. It hasn't flowed for years. He came and he's doing what he's doing. Irrespective of what I think of him, the fact remains, stuff is getting done.
100%. Now, what speaks further to that is young people who hadn't been employed, who would come up to him and up to us and say, sorry, my mother said you must also come. 5, 6 of them not helping with anything. My mother said when you're done here, if you guys could also come and clean the can you say that
this time come clean my yard?
There's something wrong with us because we believe someone else is going to do it. And I will tell you, he would get to Newlands at 7. And leave at like 6. And he didn't do it for weeks, months. Months. You understand? And I'm saying, you can see, like, if Duduzane is overseas or he's the grass thing, people start saying, hey, where's this guy now? Start sending me messages. People who are talking nonsense. Start sending me, hey, Winston, I haven't seen you guys around. Hey, man, just look at the back, what's happening there. The children can't go to school because people hide in the bush. So I'm saying, practical solutions. And I said to Duduzane, Chief, what is it? What is your secret weapon? You know, because I like learning from people. I'm always inspired or intrigued into finding out what do you think gives you the edge?
Right.
So I said to Duduzane, what do you think is your superpower?
Right.
He said, Winston, my superpower is I don't have an ego.
Sure.
I said, what you mean? He said, bro, if we need to clean, we clean. If we need to cut grass, we cut grass. If we need to jump into feces, we jump into feces. If we need to be in a private jet, we're in a private jet. If we need to be at the king's table, we're at the king's table. And the next morning, we're on the ground, on our knees, crying.
Sure.
He said, that's my superpower. I don't feel either way about it.
Sure.
I'm never too big to do this practical thing. I said, bro, that is a superpower.
Sure.
Because I'm telling you many times where I'm cleaning out a pond and I'm thinking, Mercedes is mine.
Exactly.
Cleaning this pond.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't cut grass in years.
Right.
I have a manicured lawn, and I'm not saying it
Right.
to be, I come from here, but yo, I don't need to do this guy does. Now I'm like, okay, Winston, if you think you're that big, and this guy can do that, because it's also important to put things in context. In 2014, Duduzane's company was what, 50 billion, hiring 74,000 people.
Sure.
And he was about 33, 34 years old. So, 50 billion, hiring 74,000 people. It's not something you just do by chance.
Right.
When I sit with some of the brothers, I like to say, oh, manu vugenje. You know, don't just wake up and think you can do that. It's not a chance-taking thing. But here's the kicker, right? 2015, they seize his accounts. Like, not a charge. The bank just says, hey, because of your reputation now, we're closing your accounts. They don't give him a court date. They just close his accounts.
Right.
Now, that's 2015. Well, in 2024, they haven't opened his accounts.
It's 9 years now.
Sure.
They're not saying next year they'll open.
So now if I invite you for lunch, I must pay.
Yes. But the
Maybe trying
Got you.
so I say it to say, the guy then goes to Dubai, figures it out, and makes himself a success.
Right.
In 2 years. So I go 2017 and I'm like, the guy is balling out of control. Now I'm like, okay, if that was the test, this is the testimony. This guy needs to come and invigorate and inspire people, because we need it. We need to move our politics from the politics of desperation to the politics of inspiration.
Sure.
We have the potential, we have the capacity. The South African population
Sure.
is a young population,
Yeah.
28 years old. The African population is 22 years old.
Sure.
You understand? We're on a rise, numbers-wise. We're at 1.3 billion young people.
Sure.
China, they're not at replacement rate, so they're dying off quicker and aging quicker. Than we're the only ones on the up and up.
Sure.
But the shackles on our mind and this old captured mindset, we need to break ourselves free of that. So,
so good.
this is the thinking
That's
that
good.
drives us.
Duduzane, how are you dealing with this ageism problem? You know, I'm from the church world, and us young thundercats that come in and want to start churches, the older guys look with scrutiny, you know? And one guy is even arguing with him. I'm like, no, but you started when you were younger than me.
Yeah, thank you, my brother.
Why is it now that when we started, what is the actual problem here? What's going on?
Yes.
And then there's a parallel in politics as well. People will look at you, I'm 41 as well, by the way, and people look at you, that guy, you still read behind the ears in terms of what we can do in terms of politics. How do you navigate this ageism problem man, that we're dealing with?
Firstly, I'm in full agreement with what you said.
Sure.
You know, if you look at a lot of the political role players, similar to
Yeah.
the example in the churches, a lot of the ladies and gentlemen that started off their political careers were around about our age.
Yeah.
And we're talking purely the point from 94 up until now.
Right.
So I just turn a blind eye to, you know, some things is just like, we can't speak about it because we know what it is. They know, we know, and it is what it is.
Sure.
But the most important thing is the difference between then and now, and this is what gives me the motivation. In 94, or the period leading up until 94, compared to where we're at now, 2024. Majority, if not all, the political leaders that took up leadership positions in government,
Right.
the whole executive down to local government and everything, had little to zero experience.
Sure.
None of them had run businesses, none of them had been in any governance space. You know, yes, there was freedom fighting. They were very smart people, don't get me wrong, but the experience factor was very limited to what governance, to what running an institution is. Where we sit today, we're in a far much better position. If we had to say, okay, as young people, as people that want to see things work, we're absorbing people from our current situation. There's people that are in legal firms, business people, in the education system, lecturers, that will overshadow what was done in 1994, purely because the level of experience in the past 30 years, and you know, the group learning experience from our society is far greater now than it was then. So the way I look at it is, I paid no attention. People will always talk, people will say what they need to say, and we just keep it moving. We have to keep moving, because it's a conversation that we're all aware of. People just trying to throw the age thing. We live in a patriarchal society in our continent, and that is transferred into our family dynamics, is transferred into our political dynamics, is transferred into our business dynamics.
Right.
You know, people will look at young guys, and we've experienced the same thing, and then they'll say, hey, you in your early mid-20s, make a few $1,000 bucks. You talking about making millions? No. When you get to 50, 60, we can have that conversation. But the world has moved.
That's true.
You're looking at people like the Mark Zuckerbergs, billionaire 26.
Yep.
And that's on the technology space.
Yep.
You look at this guy called Alexander Chong, I think, Chong Chow. He's the head of the #1 AI company in the world right now. He's 26 years old.
Sure.
You know, look at Kylie Jenner. Yes, it's entertainment and pharmaceutical and beauty and cosmetics.
Still.
She's what, 25 now, 24 around, but she was 22 when she became a certified billionaire.
Right.
This is what's happening in the world, and it shouldn't be a strange thing, a strange phenomenon to Africa and South Africa. That age of, and I'm not being ageist, but the age of the captains of industry in the private sector and the age of the political gurus that exist in the world, more especially on the African continent, including in South Africa, are dying out.
Sure.
There's a transfer of wealth, there's a transfer of knowledge, and it's happening. It's either we're going to grab it by the horns, or we're going to relegate this decision making to other people.
Sure.
You know, so that power base is shifting. The guys that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s are gone, and it's coming down to the 50s, 40s, 30s.
That's good.
We need to be ready. That's all we're saying, guys. AGC and what we speak about is being ever ready. We cannot wait for it to happen. We need to position ourselves in anticipation of these things happening. So when it happens, we pick up the piece and then we're ready to do so.
Sure. AGC, when you come into power, and we're still dealing with these burning issues that we're dealing with today, too, load shedding, and there's something called now water shedding. I work for a financial institute. I've got a senior manager in his area, he's got water shedding. Fortunately for him, he can afford a JoJo tank. But the vast majority of people are struggling with water shedding. I'm talking about people who are living in Lucia, people who live in Atlanta. We're dealing with water shedding. We're dealing with load shedding. Stage 6, Joburg, guys are dying 12 hours a day. Is load shedding something that is actually manufactured?
I don't like to point fingers, but
Right.
if you look at the history of what load shedding is, it's two things.
Right,
The first one, and this is my view,
right,
the first one would be a concerted effort into fitting South Africa into the global space. So you have the renewables discussion,
right.
you have the net zero targets that they're trying to reach, 2030 emissions and that sort of thing. So we're a developing country, we have coal in abundance, unlike many other places in the world,
Right.
and we're basically shutting down capacity. So a lot of the capacity that was taken out of our electricity space, our power generation space,
Right.
was deliberately taken over. So you've got power stations that were decommissioned. I think that was 20 to 22,000.
Yeah.
So megawatts. Why are we doing that? All we're saying is, as much as we want to reach those targets, and as much as we should be looking at the alternative energy space, wind, solar, and others, let's not ignore what is relevant to us here. Coal is here; it's going to be available for the next 200 years. Let's ride it till the wheels fall off. You know, we cannot start taking capacity off the shelf when we're not ready with renewables.
Right.
South Africa is a heavily industrialized country,
Right.
mining, manufacturing. You know, the base load is not going to allow it to run on renewables. It's not going to happen.
Sure.
You know, once again, I'm not an electricity specialist or expert,
Right.
but we understand the game. You know, we're
Right.
well read up and we understand it. We've actually operated in the coal mining space, so
Right.
we understand it. So, on the one side, we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, which is the world and how they see things.
Yeah.
You know, but how do you explain when the Russia-Ukraine issue happens almost 2 years ago? You look at the pipeline, the oil pipeline, oil and gas supply to major parts of Europe being cut out. Those very same countries that have been the leaders in identifying South Africa as one of the biggest emitters in the world,
Sure.
they're now buying coal from you. Richards Bay, a lot of that coal is going to the UK. It's going to Germany. It's going to all these other
Sure.
wonderful countries. And,
Yeah.
we're not upset with the situation, but what we're saying is, let's be fair.
Yeah.
You guys have been telling us that, hey, shut down all this coal production capacity.
Right.
But when you guys run into trouble,
Yeah.
you've reopened your power stations,
Yeah.
coal-fired power stations, and you're actually buying coal from South Africa. Come on, you know, the hypocrisy, we need to
Sure.
to deal with that. And then the other thing is, they definitely, just like the water shedding, the electricity issue, there definitely is an element of sabotage.
Right.
It's been spoken at length about the previous heads of those companies, but to me it doesn't make sense. How can you have so many power stations? How can you have the rail logistics and we're not able to keep up with the demand?
Sure.
You know, you hear about train loads of coal being stolen, the destruction of railway capacity, so the actual tracks being taken, the stations being vandalized.
Sure.
This doesn't make sense. You know, so as South Africa, we have to take stock and say, the issue is one, leadership, or lack of it, should I say, and then the other is us, ourselves as South Africans.
Yeah.
As the South African population, what is it that we are doing?
Sure.
You know, it doesn't help just being on Twitter and you know, voicing out our opinions when we're not holding people accountable. The opportunities that we have to hold people accountable coming up,
Yeah.
and that is who we place in those leadership positions,
Sure.
who we want to take us to the next level. So it doesn't help saying, hey, the way I'm protesting is, you know, I won't be part of this electoral system, I'm not voting,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, to some of us, that's the only weapon that we have. We need to use it to the fullest.
Right.
And that's all we're saying. You know, we'd all love to be taking it easy and not having this pressure and scrutiny and not having to explain these points to people, and then, you know, people will criticize us, and then people will try and make memes of it, and
Yeah.
people will redact it, and people will edit it to try and make us sound like we don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
it's a risk that we're putting out there, a risk to look like clowns, because you know anything that happens, people will try and flip it. It's a risk to our livelihood and to our lives, because we understand we've entered the belly of the beast, but we are happy to do so.
Sure.
Because we understand unless some of us take a step forward, it's not going to happen. And we're at that point where we have to. No one else is going to do it. We'll do it. So my final point on that is the issue of ESCOM. It's a simple fix. It's not rocket science.
Sure.
It's capacity, it's maintenance, and South Africa, before we start talking about building all these new fancy things and smart cities and stuff, let's focus on routine maintenance. Let's make sure we don't ride our bicycles and there's sewer drainage pipes that are leaking. You know, let's not, watershed. We shouldn't be having water issues in our country. It shouldn't happen. Now, you know, we're not even fighting with the issues of getting water to people in rural areas. Now we're fighting with it within the urban areas, in the peri-urban areas.
Sure.
That's unacceptable. We shouldn't be talking about beaches being closed for 2 years in a row when we knew what the issue was afterwards. You can try and blame floods and everything. Okay, cool. A year later, people don't know whether to come to Durban or not because the beaches are closed. You had a whole year to sort out the situation. So it's political willingness, firstly, or political will, should I say, firstly. The second, the people that work in these institutions, they need to be held accountable.
Sure.
We can't be having people that haven't had water for years in areas where it should not be an issue because of a valve or because of a pump station. That's unacceptable. Who are the people dealing with it? Get rid of them.
Right.
You're afraid to get rid of them because that upsets the political apple cart. Now people will say, hey, these guys either look incompetent or they're protecting each other or whatever. No, guys, we're not here for that.
Sure.
To a point where I'm going to add to what Winston said, is when identifying the talent to occupy key government positions.
Right.
Even if you don't support us, even if you don't vote for us, if you're the right guy for the job, you're the right man or woman for the job. That's just what it is.
Wow.
That's as simple as it is. You know, we're not here to curry favor. We're not here to lie to people. We're not here to sell people a sob story. This is only going to work by having the best of breed people to deal with these issues, practically and community driven.
That's great, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking to Duduzane Zuma and Winston Innes. We've got 5 minutes left, just 2 more questions. You are contending in your very first election, your maiden one. What does success look like for all game changers in this year's elections?
I believe we've reached our milestone of success. The mere fact that we're having this conversation, the mere fact that we have our chess piece on the board is a success already. And why that is important to me is in the midst of people that are afraid, are confused, disenfranchised. I wish people would stand up, more people would stand up. It can't just be the Gregorys, the Winstons, the Duduzanes. The more people that stand up, the better.
Right.
The more people that are in the political space, the more the merrier. You know, we're not in love with trying to, it's not a power grab. We're not trying to, just be in a position because we have nothing better to do. We understand the issues that it comes with.
Right.
I think us being in a space where we're able to have these conversations, where we're able to discuss and have an alternate hypothesis. You love that one? An alternate hypothesis where it hasn't existed. You got people saying the very same old things. You got people talking about things that are divisive, that play to the anger of the people. That's not why we're here. We're not here to lie to people. Whether you like our messaging or not, it is the right messaging. Factually, it is the right messaging, and you'll gravitate to it eventually. There's no doubt about it. So I think we've won. We've gotten the W on this one. Anything after this is a bonus.
Wow, that's excellent, man. Now, Winston, you're doing a lot of background work or WhatsApp groups and stuff. How does somebody join the agency?
We all over.
Right.
When I say all over, we on social media. We in your neighborhood.
Right.
We on the ground. And we'd like for people to join us with the view of fixing our country. Don't join us by saying, I can convince, better my numbers, I got a lot of people behind me.
Right.
What position are you giving me? Because that's not where we are. I think we experiencing the challenges we have because there are role players who feel that they have groups of people. Let's go back to the days where you delivered, and that's what your mission. You understand? So before we talk about anything else, before we talk about your position, what you want, let's just talk about the value you can add, what you came to do, and let's do that. Everything else falls into play. So the fact that we're having this discussion, I didn't call you, or you didn't call me off the back of someone convincing you. You've just seen like, okay, these guys have been at it for a minute now. Now I want to find out what. You get what I mean? So let our actions speak. All of us. You get me? And reciprocally, I said, I know Gregory's been at this radio thing for a minute, so he's credible enough. He's paid his dues. Duduzane, let's make time, let's go see him. So that gets you results quicker and more efficiently than anything else. Let's do the thing, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Get busy.
Appreciate that, man. Duduzane, appreciate you for taking the time to come out.
Thank you very much.
And to speak to us. Winston, appreciate you, man. Yeah, and as I said, we see you guys. We see what you're doing. I'm a man of the clock. If you don't mind, I just want to say a quick prayer for you guys in terms of what you're doing. And then we'll close it out, man. Lord, thank you for our brothers who have picked up their hands and decided to walk down this difficult path of bringing about change. And they want to see humans flourish in this country. We just hold them up in prayer. We pray that you will just go before them, strengthen them, open doors that need to be opened, close doors that need to be closed. And you just go before them. And Lord, we just wish them all the best and success. And and I pray that they will find their purpose, Lord God, even as they are already functioning in what you've called them to do. Just pray that you will just go before them and just be with them, Lord, in Jesus' name.